What we're going to do now is we're going to start making our basic shapes. If you didn't see the first video or the one before this, however I'm going to number this, take a look at how we set up the interface. So for this series for class, we want it to look like this. So right now I'm looking at my 3D environment, and I can basically tell this by the fact that there is no grid because we turned the grid off in 3D display. If I were to go into Sketch, then I would see the grid. Also, you can look up here or along the side. If you see anything that says stop sketch, then you should be able to assume that you're in the sketch environment. Now, when we're dealing with engineering-based design, CAD software typically, as opposed to your graphic, maybe video games, not Sprite exactly, but your 3D design, as in like maybe Pixar Studios animation and such. In kind of contrast, the 3D Studio Max and Maya and those kind of things, they might deal with, Blender does this too. It's been a long time, but I believe so. That you create what they would typically call primitives, and these do exist in Fusion down here. Make a box, make a cylinder, make a sphere, but that's not how we work this. Later down the road, maybe we'll talk about this, but this is not typically something that I utilize too much because I need things to be done by the numbers. So for example, if I were to pick a sphere here, you would make this, and typically you would then turn it into kind of like a developed surface, they might call it, to where it gets a grid around it, and then you can start pulling and stretching and smashing it together with other ones and such. Essentially 3D sculpting. What we want to do in our CAD engineering type design is we want to create a sketch first. We need to create a two-dimensional shape called a sketch, and then we take that two-dimensional shape here that will be in this area right here, and then we'll thicken it up somehow or another, right? Typically it's called extrude. CATIA calls it a pad, so whatever. In order to do that, in order to create a sketch, we need to have a flat surface to work on. So for example, you're looking at your screen right now, and you think, well, I want to make a sketch right here, but this where I'm wiggling the mouse around, that's, on our monitor, it's right here, it's on a flat 2D plane, but it goes back into the universe for infinity. So we don't really know, the computer doesn't know where you want to make this two-dimensional shape. Now, in order to have a plane, you have to have maybe a couple things first. There's a couple of variations on this, and later when we go to make different types of planes, we'll talk about all these. But for the basic start here, if you look over in this area here in your browser, you'll see origin. And typically by default, it's not showing up. So if I hit the light, you can see this. It's not necessary that you turn this on now. I'm just doing it just to show you what's going on. So we've also oriented our environment so Z is up. So we did that back in the last video as well. So our blue line right here is the Z axis pointing up. Then what that gets us is, if you look up in our cube here, Y, you can't see it, but Y is the green line, red is your X. So those are our axes lines, right? And this is our axis system, or our world coordinate system. If I were to take an axis line and run it, for infinity up here like this, that's going to give me a line. It actually gives me a point and an infinite line. Then here, for Y, I got a point and another infinite line going this way. Those two lines, I could put, let's say, a board on. I could put a plane on those, and it won't wiggle around. So if I had just a point and I tried to put a board on top of it, it would roll all over the place. If I had 2 points in space and I laid a board on top, it's going to wobble around. If I have 3 points, it will stay solid. Okay? The same kind of thing goes with lines. If I have 2 lines, I can put a plane on it. So anyways, the end of this long story is this plane right here, if I hit the drop down here, you can see here's my different axes. They kind of light up as I go over the top of them. Down here, if I look at this right here, that's highlighting this front plane right here. It's on the Z axis and the X axis, so they call it the XZ. In other programs, they say ZX. I'm not sure why they flip-flopped it here. If I go here, I got the YZ plane. It's on the X plane, it's on the X, reverse everything. It's on the Z axes and the Y axes, just as you see right there, the green and the blue. and then you have your XY plane down here at the bottom. Okay? So sometimes if I say click on the bottom or go to the bottom plane or click on the floor, what I'm talking about is in our orientation, it's going to be the XY plane. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that because you don't need it. You don't need to see it. If it's convenient to you, leave it on. In the beginning, coming from CATIA, I kind of would turn it on to look at it because, again, it was convenient. But what they got going on here is you leave it blank, and then I need to start a sketch. So I come up here to sketch, or you can hit the drop down, and you see all this stuff here, and you say create sketch. Okay, so just watch for a second here. So I click on this. It's depressed. It's like a toggle. It's in. So now it's like half a sentence and it's saying I want to go to sketch environment, and that's half the sentence, on one of these planes. So as you can see, obviously, after I click this, then our plane system shows up. Okay? So then I can click on the XY plane, for example, here. It flips up into our screen, and now we're looking down at it, where I can go ahead and do kind of like we did before. I can make a circle here, click, snap on the center, click, there's my circle. I hit escape to stop the tool, drop the tool, and if I turn it sideways, you can see that I am still in a three-dimensional world. It just flattens you out onto the grid on this two-dimensional plane out of convenience. All right, so I'll turn it a little bit sideways. I look at my cube over here, I hit top, and it flattens me back out. Remember that about the cube. Don't make yourself suffer trying to work on something sideways if you don't need to. So I will get out of here. I'm going to say stop sketch. So then I'm back in the 3D environment and, no grid. And down here in the timeline, I have a sketch for what I just created. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and delete that for now because I want to back up and show you another path and show you why I'm choosing to go one way other than the other. I will say in the beginning, get very used to the kind of somewhat default pattern of how you do things. There are different pathways to get to the same object, and it's kind of hard to describe this in words right now, but what I mean is things like, well, part of it would be keyboard shortcuts. I'm going to use keyboard shortcuts, but I also want you to know I guess you'd say the long way how to get there, because if for whatever reason, I don't know, keyboard shortcuts aren't going to go away. Anyways, just to know where they're at. But for example here, if I want to create a sketch, I'm telling you now to go to sketch and then pick the plane. Go to sketch, pick the plane, and then draw a line. Go to sketch, pick a plane, draw a circle. This kind of a pattern, okay? I could skip a step and just go sketch. I don't say create sketch, I just say make a line. As soon as I hit line, it automatically says, well, pick a plane, please, because in order to have a line, you need to have a sketch, and a sketch, you got to have a plane. So I pick that. Now I have the line tool. Now I could draw the line. I'm in sketch, leave sketch, and I'm done. So it's a shortcut, yes, but I want people in the beginning to get used to the habit of how you do this. It also helps you understand why maybe you did something incorrectly down the road, potentially. So I'll go ahead and get rid of this sketch here, and I'll show you this kind of again. So let's go ahead and unhide that, just to show you that before, first, we hit this button, right? Create sketch, picked a plane. Then we said, just make a line, ask for plane, everything we just did, right? You can also come over and you can pick an object first and then go do that thing to that thing that you selected, right? So I can hit this plane here and then I can go into sketch, and now I'm into sketch that way. Okay. It seems probably kind of silly to have to explain all this to you, but why I'm telling you this is because pretty much globally across your CAD package, you can pick a thing and then pick the thing you want to do that to. Pick a thing and then pick the thing you want to do it to. Or you can pick the thing you want to do something to and then pick what you want to do to it. And the reason you need to understand that is because you will hear me say this all the time. You'll have something out here and I'll say, before we get going, I'll say, click on the background, click on the background, click on the background, pick a tool, click on the background, pick a tool. The reason I'm having you do this is because if you happen to be highlighting this And it just, because you're clicking around, you're like, oh yeah, looky there, planes, yeah, neato. And then then here is the XY plane, right? And so you happen to be clicking there. I say, okay, class, let's go to sketch. So I want you to click on sketch, and then I want you to go to the XY plane to start making your part. And you go, okay, I'll click. And then I say, okay, go ahead and click on the XY plane. And you go, oh, okay, well, I guess I didn't have to. Anyways, and I'll continue on making my part. And you should realize you're on the wrong plane now, because current topic, right? So as you go down the road, somewhere down, multiple steps, throughout this, all of a sudden you realize, oops, I did something wrong. And this can be fairly catastrophic, especially when you're new. And it might cause you to have to redo or undo everything or start all over again. So be very mindful of that. I'm going to delete these two things down here. So, could you hear my mouse click there? Habitually, as soon as I get done doing anything, I click on the background so you know that everything's deselected. Similarly, hit escape. See? Hear me clicking there? I'm hitting escape to make sure that I've dropped any tool that I might be holding on to. So it's essentially neutralizing everything. Click in the background, hit escape, whatever you need to do, make sure you're not doing anything other than exactly what you plan on doing. All right. Enough of that. So let's get this oriented right. If you want to get things oriented right, and maybe through the series, maybe I'll try to remember to do this, just to keep everybody on kind of the same look, same area, same place, and know that we're seeing the same thing. I can turn this around, and I can completely understand that the blue line is Z, and no matter how I turn this, Z is up, and this is still the XY plane. But if you get kind of screwed up around here because you're rotating things all over, you might want to realize that you can come up here and hit the little house, and it will bring you into our default isometric view, okay? So maybe I'll try to remember to say that every so often, just so that we get things placed right. So, making a thing. Real simple. This is going to be your task zone. This is going to be, I'm going to try to end the video here pretty soon. I'm just going to show you how to make a thing and how to build on top of that thing. And then your task will be to continue doing this over and over and over again. I can't even imagine how many thousands of CAD parts that I have in different files over the years that I'm creating. Things, of course, that are important. Things are just screwing around. I just feel like designing something for the hell of it. Just keep finding a reason to make something. And if you can't make an actual thing because you're like, I don't even know how to do that, who cares? Follow like the end of this exercise here. Just make something. It doesn't need to even be a real object. So I come over here. I've clicked on the background. I hit sketch up here, and I'm going for these buttons here. Incidentally, in a bit, I'm going to change the user interface here because I think this is where Fusion's going. So things will look a little bit different. We'll do that maybe next video. So I click on sketch. I pick the the XY plane down here at the bottom. I bring this up. Now I'm going to go to sketch. I'm going to pick circle. There's a lot of different circle types here. And it'll be a pretty damn boring video, but we'll probably do something like that just to show you. We'll say circles, and we'll go through all the different types of circles, rectangles. That seems kind of mind-numbing even for me, that, going through each one of these, I think you can pretty much figure that out yourself. But we'll see. We'll see. So I'm going to pick a center diameter circle, and you notice that the hotkey here is C. So if I want to, later, you'll see me hitting the C key. So I hit that, and I go to the center here, and I bring this out. Okay? Be kind of mindful about your zoom level, because your default zoom level seems to be a window. Like if I bring this up to the whole window here, I'm about 200 millimeters. If you're making a big object or a small object, you can kind of tell by sort of the size of your grid. You'll figure that out. So I click here, and I have now a sketch. So by the way, just to tell you what I was doing here, if you're used to graphic type programs, you're not clicking and holding and dragging. You're clicking once for a point, in this case it's a center point, and then you let go of the left button number 1, you bring it out, and then you, then you click again, you see? Control Z, by the way, undo. So click center, let go, bring it out, click, finish. Later, we'll talk more about constraints. Right now, I just want to show you how to make a thing. So I'm here. I go to Stop Sketch. Now I'm out of the sketch environment. I'm going to go ahead and turn off Origin here because it gets in the way. And then after you've created a 2D shape, the sketch right here could be called 2D shapes or something, right? But anything sketch is on a two-dimensional plane. It gets kind of confusing because sometimes there's words like mirror and pattern that are also mirror and pattern in 3D, two different things, okay? So you do a 2D thing, and then you do one, some of these things right here. So after I have a two-dimensional shape, I have to create a solid thing. After I create a solid thing, then maybe I could modify it. After I'm finished doing these things back and forth a bit, maybe I could make separate parts, and then maybe I could assemble them. It's sort of kind of how the flow goes a bit. So I take this and I go to extrude. It's got an E, so I could remember to hit E for extrude. I pick this, click anywhere in here. In other CAD programs, you don't get this ability. I'm not certain really if it's a good or bad thing. It seems to be kind of null. This seems to be pretty okay. You can click anywhere in the center and it understands that I'm selecting this. But realize what really has happened in the two-dimensional environment is you did not create a disk. You created a circle. You created a string. And so if you're using CATIA, I believe it's been a bit since I've been doing SolidWorks, but I think it was the same way. You'd actually have to pick the edge of it to get the string. Okay, here all you have to do is pick the center, and now you have a little arrow in the middle, and then you could take it and you could drag it up. You don't have to drag it up. You can just come over here and type, but there's going to be, of course, an addendum to that in a second. So you bring it up and you hit OK, and then there you have a shape. Okay, so that's how you get a three-dimensional shape in a parametric CAD engineering design type program. Okay, now let me delete this, do it again. So for review, sketch, pick a plane, C for circle, pick a circle, bring it out, stop sketch, create, extrude, pick your shape, pull it up, hit OK, that's it. All right? That's the basic idea over and over and over again. So now we have a part like this. It gives us a few more options. So again, to make a sketch, we need to have a plane, right, like we saw before, or what they call a planar face, a face that is flat like a plane. Not a face that's kind of flat. It has to be mathematically flat, perfect. Okay, so I cannot pick this curved edge side of the cylinder right here to put a sketch onto. There's other tricks to get things onto that, but I cannot click it and expect to get into a 2D plane and draw something on it. But what I do have is, let's turn this off, is two more flat surfaces. I have this one here and I have this one here. Okay, does that make sense? These are absolutely perfectly flat. If I turn origin back on and I turn this sideways, you will notice that that plane down here, and I can do this as well. I can go to sketches over here, and I can see how the first sketch is actually there. If I unhide it, the sketch is there, and it's on that plane, which is this face, okay? It's obvious, but I just want to state it out because this sketch was made on that plane. This face, even though it is equal to the original plane, it is not the original plane. More on that later, but you kind of want to think about that. It has to do, as we're talking about links and how things are connected to other things. So then the other one we have is this one up here. So now if I wanted to, I can click this face. Actually, let's do it the way we've learned so far. We click on the background, we click sketch, and then instead of picking one of these planes down here, we pick this face. And now when we are in sketch, we're on that face. It gives us another place to build off of. So then what I can do is I can come in here, hit C for circle, and I'll bring this out. There's another circle. I can stop sketch, so I'm out of the 3D environment. And if I roll this around, you can see that I have a sketch on the surface of that part. Now I can hit E for extrude, right here, extrude. And then I can come over here and I can pick that sketch that I just made, and I can extrude that up now. It gives me a lot more things to do. So I hit OK. That's done. Now, let's do it a little bit differently. I can pick this surface, come over here to Sketch, and now I will go into Sketch on that face because I had it pre-selected. Again, you see there it is. Okay, bring it back, flatten the cube out, get this in where you need it, holding down Control and panning it, getting it nice and centered. Hit C for circle, and we'll bring this out, extrude it up, hit E for extrude, take this, bring it up, over and over and over and over again. Okay, so now we just keep stacking, stacking, stacking. Well, you know, that's interesting, but how fun is that going to be? So we pick this, and we go into Sketch, and we'll do another circle, say like that big, and then it's still E for extrude. So this is going to be kind of interesting. So this is a bit different from the other CAD programs. Here's my extrude, here's my shape, I pick it, and there's my arrow. This is why I was mentioning about the arrow. It's kind of convenient to use it. I could just type stuff here, but if I grab it and I drag it up, just as you saw, it goes up. And if you've ever used any other program, they usually call this something like, in CATIA, it's a pad, or they'll say extrude boss, as in it's extruding it and making it a solid part in the universe instead of an extrude cut or a pocket that's cutting it out. In Fusion, what they did, which is, I don't know if I'd say it's brilliant, it's just kind of like, oh, yeah, of course, why not? If you take this and you bring it up and it's coming away from the part into air, well, then it must have to be a solid because we can't cut nothing into nothing. But if you bring it down, all of a sudden it turns red and it says, oh, down here, look at this over here, operation, it's going to cut it into it. So then you can come over here and you see that it's a negative value. So you just say maybe minus 50, right? And I can hit OK. Now, like I said, you could have just typed over here, and understanding how it works, you could have just said negative 50, minus 50, and it would have went downward into it. But it's kind of nice to just grab it, drag it, and you get to see what you're going to get. Okay, so I hit OK, and then I have a pocket, if you will, inside of this part. All right, so now we'll do this again. So I pick up here, and let's say I wanted to pick right on this face of the top ring here. So I come into here, and I'll get, I'll just say that I want to be somewhere right about over here. By the way, it's not snapping to this vertical line. That's another thing we'll talk about later that other programs it does do. So I made my circle, E for extrude, zoom in here. Don't try to select something way the hell out here. People that are doing that, I've found, they do this because they are not comfortable with the zoom. It zooms wherever your mouse is. So if my mouse is over here, it's going to make this area that I'm picking on center. If it's over here, I'm going to go into that area. So get used to it and hold down Control, pan, get super comfortable. Zoom in, get a hold of that because you don't want to get anything else. Drag it down just so that we know it's going downward. Now, I'm not going to type anything in the negative value. What I'm going to say is I would like to have the other end, the extent of this, be a distance, -3, right? I could hit this and I could say up to object. We'll do that in a second. I could say all, and it will go all the way through. Now I have a hole that goes through it. This is important. I could have added all this stuff up here, the heights of this whole entire thing here, and I could have made that pocket, that hole, the same depth as the height of this. But huge topic that we're going to mention over and over again as we go through this. I used to do classes on this called design theory, and it's kind of just this concept. Some people say design intent, and that kind of implies some other things. But thinking about how you're building it, not just the fact that I wanted a hole there. If I come along later down the road, because I'm making multiples of these parts, and the customer says, hey, I'd like to have one a little bit taller, you make this extrude right here a little bit taller, well, now suddenly this hole, if it was done by a distance, will not be going all the way through anymore. It would just be, let's say, 50, right? But if I say through all, well, you know, SolidWorks lingo or, you know, whatever, through all, whatever, you get the point. If I say that it goes through all, then it will always go through all. So for example, here's a little bit of things to come. I can go back to say this original extrude right here. See how it highlights? And I'm down here in the timeline. Right click on this, edit the feature, and now I could say bring this up to 50, hit OK. This got taller. Everything else was built on top of and on top of and on top of, etc., right? And that hole continues to go through all of them. So that is a good thing to understand. I am not saying it is the thing that you always want to do. I am saying you want to understand what the future of the part is that you're creating. This is not, I am not doing these things to get you to make models on your 3D printer so that you could make a fun little toy or some cute little object to, help you out today. I'm going from the mindset that you're learning this so that you could have a company or work for a company that's going to make multiple parts. And in the course of making multiple parts, you're going to have multiple iterations of these parts. And you and others are going to be working on these parts together. And you want to create a design methodology that makes it conducive for editing and understanding by you and everybody else in your team. Okay? Keep that in mind. All right, let's do maybe a couple more things here. One more thing, but multiples of it. I want to give you enough extra things to do here to keep going with this and having some fun with it. So I'm going to go to Sketch again, and let's say I pick the hole in the bottom. This is going to be a stupid looking shape, and I would highly suggest you guys make stupid looking shapes. Do not get wrapped up in one thing that you're making and all of a sudden it looks like a thing and you start designing it to be that thing. I want you to make a part, do a bunch of stuff on it, close it down, shut it down, make another one, make another one, make another one. Do not sit here and go, oh, hey, look, it looks like a wedding cake. I'm going to make it like this. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to make an actual part out of it. Don't do that yet. Just keep making stupid crap. So here we're going to go make a square. It's down here at the bottom. You see the plane that I'm on? And I hit E for extrude. I pick this square and I drag it up, and it's coming up here. The reason I made this a square is because now we've got our original planes. We've got all of these flats that we could build off of. We got the flat down there at the bottom that we just built off of. We got the flat at the top of this, and now we have 4 other flat sides that we can build off of. So I could come here, I could pick this plane, and I could go here, and I could hit R for rectangle, 2-point rectangle. I'm going to show you others later. Put it right here. Don't worry about making things center. Do not dwell on hardly anything other than the task at hand of making shapes and extruding them. Please, we'll do more of this later. So I'm still in Sketch. I got the rectangle shape selected. I hit E for extrude, bounces me out of the 2D world. I pick my square and I bring it out. Okay. Hit OK. Now I have other flat faces, so I can go onto this face right here. I can hit R for rectangle. I can put something right here. E for extrude. Take this. And if I want, oops, notice how you can do that. If you get too many things picked, you can re-pick the face and make it go away, or you can hit the X over here under profile and it'll get rid of them. So I hit that, bring it out, or I could go this way. Let's go that way and we'll cut it through. See, this is what I was talking about is the wrong way, by the way. If I'm going to go all the way through, I would say through all. If I knew that this thing was for a slot that is always, no matter how thick this is, it's always like a 3mm slot, then in that case I would choose a distance. Hit OK. Now I've got a hole in there. Here's the thing that's funny. See inside here? You can zoom in pretty much forever, right? So this right in here is a valid face to pick. So I could pick this, and now I'm in Sketch. It's kind of difficult to see because we got something in front of me. CATIA's got a nice feature called Cut by Sketch Plane, so Fusion people, maybe throw that in there would be kind of nice, unless it's hiding here somewhere that I don't know of. You got to know that this face right here is in front of me. I'm actually working inside there. Sometimes if you want, you can turn sideways. It's a little bit disturbing, but you know, you could do that. And I could hit this, hit E for extrude. Now I'm here. I could pick that shape, and I could bring it up here. Now check this out. I will use the up to feature. So I go extent, distance to object, and if I want, I can come up here and pick that face, and now that feature will go up to that surface there. By the same token that the hole goes through all, this is going up to that face. If I change that face, it will continue to go up to it. So I'll come back here. So this is timeline editing again. So if I come here and I find my sketch here in the tree, I'm highlighting over it so I can see it. I right click and then you can say edit sketch. I go here, there's my sketch that made that shape. I bring this down. This is the lower half that was created on, and this is the extent that it went up to. I'm changing the size of the hole there, and it doesn't care. It's still, the sketch is still based on that face, so it starts there and it goes up to object up to there. So that's kind of cool. Very good. Okay, one last thing as far as making stuff. If I want to put something right smack in the middle here, I've got this plane, but it's off from the center. This plane's off from the center. What I do is I unhide origin so I can see it. There it is. There's a plane that if I was looking down at it, goes right through the center. It's hiding inside there. This thing is in front of it. Let's see if we can get it. So I click on the background, I pick sketch, and I hover over that, and you see, there's my plane. It can't pick a flat, it can't pick a curved surface, so it understands that I need to pick that. So I pick this. Now I am right smack in the middle, you see that, of the part. Bring it back, flatten it out. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit R for rectangle. I'm going to put a rectangle here like we were just doing. E for extrude. Now I'm going to pick that sketch. But see, I've got a problem. I can't get to the sketch. I'm picking this face. This is where huge errors could happen. In Fusion, you are allowed to just extrude faces. In other programs, you can't do this so much. So if I pick this face, it'll let me just stretch that face out. It sees this down here, so it wants to cut through if I back up. There, see? It'll just stretch it out. Not so good to do. So cancel this. Okay, we're back in Sketch. Oh, it's trying to give me help because it figures I didn't know what I was doing. And let's do that again. So I hit E for extrude, and I go to pick that shape. And this is common to all types of things in Fusion that you want to do. Hold down button number 1, your left click mouse button. Hold it right over the top of the thing that you want. Imagine right where your mouse point is, if we drill the hole right through the entire part, any face that's in its path will show up here. Okay, so if I hover over this, it's the same thing that's highlighting. That's the face. If I come back, there's the profile I want. What's the next face? Well, it's the one in the back. Again, like I said, if I drilled all the way through, it would be the back face. I want that profile. So you pick it, and there it is. Okay. Now I can pull it out from the middle. It wants to cut it because it sees that it's going through material. But let's say what I want to do is I want to make an even thing, wings, I don't know, tabs, coming out this side and equal over here, kind of like a mirror, a symmetrical shape. So I'm going to change this from cut to join. So it's actually making a solid. See how that works? And then what I'm going to do is change from one side to two sides. If I change to two sides, I can pull them out non-symmetrically, right? But if I want them to be symmetric, they're symmetric. I hit that. Now, no matter what I do, they change even. So do you see why I had to pick the plane in the middle? Because I wanted these to be equal on both sides. If I would have picked one of these faces, I could have made it symmetrical, but the whole thing's going to be offset a bit. And so you bring it out wherever you like it, you hit OK, and there you go. All right? That is probably good enough. Somewhere back there, probably a couple times at least, I said that this was going to be a short video, and again, not so short. But these are the things you want to know in order to begin making a shape. You can play around with some of the other stuff, but do your best to just stay focused with what we just did. Right now, we're trying to build a muscle memory, not make anything extraordinarily cool, have fun with it, but try to stick with just these topics. I want everybody to understand, click on background, click on sketch, click on plane, make two-dimensional shape, leave sketch, extrude, you know, using whatever parameters you need to, hit OK, do it again, right? Sketch, plane, extrude. Sketch, plane, extrude. Or pick your plane first, sketch, extrude, right? So good for there. That again being kind of long and still not feeling like I got to everything. I think the next video is just going to kind of build on some of these topics. We'll see what happens. So see you next video.